they're going to be delivering the vaccine.
This is the same man
it's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it.
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do, either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that, too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. I would like you to speak to the medical doctors to see if there's any way that you can apply light and heat to cure. You know, if you could. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. Again, I say maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm not a doctor. But I'm like a person that has a good, you know what.
But sir, you're the president.
Deborah, have you ever heard of that? The heat and the light relative to certain viruses, yes, but relative to this virus?
Not as a treatment. I mean, certainly fever
Yeah.
is a good thing when you have a fever. It helps your body respond.
Dr. Birx, I just want to give you the opportunity right now. What should the American people know about disinfectants and the human body?
Well, first, that was a dialogue he was having between the DHS scientist and himself for information that he had received and he was discussing. We have made it clear, and when he turned to me, I made it clear, and he understood that it was not as a treatment. Not as a treatment. Turned to me, I made it clear, and he understood that it was not as a treatment. And I think that kind of dialogue will happen. I think what got lost in there, which is unfortunate, I think, in what happened next is that study was critically important for the American people. And you say, why was that important? Because we had an MIT study just from a few weeks ago that suggests when people are talking and singing, aerosolized virus could be moving forward. What this study showed for the first time is that sunlight can impact that aerosolization outside. And I think the half-life in the sunlight is very important as we move forward to really understand how we can effectively create decontaminations in different environments.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I understand the importance of that study that the DHS official was discussing from the lab in Maryland about the effect of sunlight on having, or even more effectively, the life of coronavirus, the effect of disinfectants on non-porous solids like doorknobs. But that's not what the president was musing about. He was talking about ways to take that science and somehow turn it into injecting UV light or disinfectants into the human body, which, as you know, especially with disinfectants, can be lethal. And the CDC had to issue a statement. Lysol had to issue a statement. I understand that you're taking a generous approach to this when it comes to President Trump musing aloud.
As a scientist and a public health official and a researcher, sometimes I worry that we don't get the information to the American people that they need when we continue to bring up something that was from Thursday night. So I think I've answered that question. I think the president made it clear that physicians had to study this. I think I've made it clear that this was amusing, as you described, but I want us to move on to be able to get information to the American people.
Well, I would agree with that. I would say that I think the source of the misinformation is not the news media on this, but Dr. Deborah Birx, we appreciate your coming here and taking our questions, and best of luck with your job. God bless you.
Thank you.
So I think everybody looked to you during the Trump administration as the voice of science and facts and reality. And I think we all wonder how you dealt with certain Trump falsehoods. Like, I know you were not at the coronavirus press briefing when President Trump suggested that we inject disinfectant, while we're on the subject of disinfectants.
Right, right.
But when something like that happened, did you talk to him afterwards? Did you try to explain, like, that's really terrible advice? That's kind of poisonous. It's toxic. Like, what kind of conversation would you have with him after he said something that was clearly false and maybe even dangerous?
Well, I mean, I didn't have the opportunity at that particular time because I wasn't there about the bleach thing.